Okay.
Before writing Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Kṛṣna Goswāmī asked all the senior devotees of Vrindavan for their blessings. Naturally, Sri Gopal Goswami was one of these devotees. However, Gopal Bhatta specifically requested Srila Kṛṣna Goswāmī that in exchange for his blessings, he not use his name in Chaitanya Charitamrita. As a result of his humility, Gopal Bhatt's name is mentioned only in one or two passages of that great work, and little else is known about him. Biographical information is still available, however, in the Bhakti Ratnakar, and much can be gleaned too by studying the life of Sri Chaitanya. According to Krishnadas Kaviraj's Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Chaitanya began his walking journey throughout South India in the summer of 1510. After many days, he came to Srirangam, a small city located on the banks of Kaveri river in the district of Tanjore. Famous as one of the most important centers of Krishna worship in all of India, it is more accurately a center for the worship of Lakshmi and Narayan, an expansion of divine couple Radha and Krishna. Nonetheless, Sri Rangam's main temple is the largest Vishnu temple in all of India, and pilgrims come from hundreds of miles to see Ranganath Swami, the deity of Narayan, in the main sanctum. It was here that Sri Chaitanya met Venkata Bhatt and his brothers Prabodhananda Saraswati and Tirumalla Bhatt. These were Brahmanas of vast learning, and they welcomed Sri Chaitanya, the travelling sannyasi mendicant, to be a guest in their home. At this time too, Sri Chaitanya met Venkata's 7-year-old boy, Gopal Bhatt, who would one day be known as Gopal Bhatt Goswami. The three brothers and the young Gopal Bhatta lived near the Ranganath temple, and consequently, as Brahmanas, they were dedicated servants of the deity. This being the case, they were naturally aligned with the Sri or Ramanuja Sampradaya, one of the 4 authentic lineages of disciplic descent. As such, they favored the Aishwarya feature of the Lord, worshipping his grandeur and majesty. In fact, their sincere devotion to the awe-inspiring and opulent Lakshmi Narayan, manifestation of the Supreme, was so pure that Sri Chaitanya felt great satisfaction for them. Prabhura Tushta Haila Mana. Even though he was teaching the worship of Radha and Krishna, despite being pleased with their high level of devotion, Sri Chaitanya could not help promoting the original Vedic perspective of Sri Krishna's supreme and original position. Consequently, he once jokingly said to Venkata Bhatt, "Your worshipable goddess of fortune Lakshmi always remains at the chest of Narayan, and she is certainly the most chaste woman in creation. However, my Lord is Lord Shri Krishna, a cowherd boy who is engaged in tending the cows. Why is it," Sri Chaitanya continued, "that Lakshmi, being such a chaste wife, wants to associate with my Lord? Just to associate with Krishna, Lakshmi abandoned all the transcendental happiness in the Vaikuntha, and for a long time accepted vows and regulative principles, and actually performed unlimited austerities." Venkat Bhatt countered by saying that Krishna, Venkat Bhatt countered by saying that Krishna and Narayan are in actuality one and the same. And it is thus natural that Lakshmi would approach Krishna. After all, Krishna is simply Narayan in another dress. So what was the harm? What was the harm if she approached her husband in one of his other manifestations? It is still in essence the same person. In this way, her action cannot be considered unchaste. Venkat did admit, however, that Krishna represented a superior manifestation. Although there is, in one sense, no difference between the forms of Narayan and Krishna, said Venkat. In Krishna, there is a special transcendental attraction due to the conjugal rasa, and consequently, he surpasses Narayan. Sri Chaitanya replied, I know that there is no fault on the part of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, but still she could not enter into the rasa dance. This was reserved only for Krishna's most intimate devotees. We hear this from revealed scriptures. Venkat Bhatt, now slightly vexed, said, I cannot understand why Lakshmi was not allowed to join in the rasa dance. I am an ordinary human being, and since my intelligence is very limited and I am easily agitated, my mind cannot enter within the deep ocean of the pastimes of the Lord. Next, Venkata acknowledged the divinity of Sri Chaitanya and then asked him to reveal the mystery of Lakshmi's inability to enter into the rasa dance. After all, he, Venkata Bhatt, was an ordinary living entity and may be subject to misinformation or faulty interpretation. But Sri Chaitanya, he knew, was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as such had access to all information regarding these esoteric subjects. Sri Chaitanya replied, Lord Krishna has a specific characteristics. He attracts everyone's heart by sweet interpersonal relationships. He attracts everyone's heart by sweet interpersonal relationships of conjugal love. These sweet relationships reach their zenith in Vraj, the highest level of God's kingdom. And there they may manifest in any of the primary rasas, such as that of servitude, friendship, parental expression, or at last conjugal love. At that point, Krishna's godhood becomes unimportant and an incomparably sweet exchange ensues. Only those who follow in the footsteps of these inhabitants of Vraja.
Yes, Maharaj.
Only those who follow the footsteps of these inhabitants of Vraja, Sri Chaitanya continued, they attain the Lord in his highest and original feature. There he is known as Brajendra Nandan, or the son of Maharaj Nanda. And there he is conquered by the spontaneous love of his most intimate servitors. The highest of these are the gopis.
आधे घंटे मिलूंगा महाराज बोल रहे थोड़ा सा लेट महाराज बोल रहे आधे घंटे में आएंगे वॉक कर ले
The highest of these are the gopis, Krishna's cowherd girlfriends, whose superlative love for Krishna is totally unconditional and unmotivated.
वो 10 मिनट लगेगा उससे। 10 मिनट लगेगा। हाँ, ठीक है।
In order to enter the rasa dance, one must follow in their footsteps. The goddess of fortune, Sri Chaitanya concluded, wanted to enjoy Krishna's association and at the same time retain her spiritual body in the form of Lakshmi. This form is certainly magnificent from the spiritual point of view, with all the opulence and power of godly majesty. However, she did not follow the footsteps of the gopis in her worship of Krishna. Consequently, all the opulence and power in the world could not gain her entrance into Krishna's most esoteric pastime. In this way, Sri Chaitanya succeeded in showing Venkata Bhatt the superiority of love over power, of sweetness over opulence, of Krishna over Narayan. These were the conversations that won not only Venkat Bhatt but his two brothers over to Chaitanyite Vaishnavism. But they also won over the young Gopal Bhatt Goswami, who would regularly sit and listen to these talks. Thus, in order to gain some perspective on Gopal Bhatta's reaction to Sri Chaitanya's dialogue with his father, it will be useful to more deeply penetrate the underlying scriptural understanding of just why the Lord's Aishwarya feature is subservient to his Madhurya feature. According to Vedic tradition, the inhabitants of Vraja are uninterested in Krishna's majestic form, his Aishwarya form. This form is reserved for worshippers such as those at Sri Rangam, who worship Vishnu or Narayan feature. If they attain perfection, they go to one of the unlimited Vaikuntha planets after death and worship the Lord of their heart with awe and reverence. For they are inclined to this mode of worship. But awe and reverence are strange words to the inhabitants of Vraja. They are confidential lovers of the Lord, sharing a special exchange that is devoid of distance created by formality and rigidness. Their destination is celestial Vraj, where God's Madhurya Roop, Kṛṣṇa, the divine lover, sports with them in a variety of intimate relationships. The intimacy is so intense that they forget his lordship and in this way relish an even deeper relationship with him. The Aishwarya feature is thus understood to be inferior because it emphasizes the Lord's majestic and distant Godhood. His sweet character and personal attributes lose meaning. Conversely, in the Lord's Madhurya Rupa, the personal loving exchange comes to the fore and his Godhood loses meaning. These are the hints of these thoughts throughout the Vedic literature. For example, in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, a scene is depicted wherein baby Krishna's foster mother, Yashoda, suspected him of eating mud. She peered into his mouth in order to see if he had indeed eaten it, and she saw the entire universe. Her heart was seized with terror, and losing all composure, her natural motherly affection was replaced first with fear and then with awe and reverence, for she realized the divinity of her very special child. Nonetheless, Krishna almost immediately enabled her to forget the experience and once again relish him as her ordinary son. Upon receiving Krishna's mercy in this way, the Bhagavatam explains, Mother Yashoda's heart was again filled with intense attraction. Another example is found in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Arjun says to Krishna, I desire to see your majestic feature, Aishwarya Roop. Shri Krishna grants Arjuna's wish by showing him the universal form. Upon seeing this manifestation of Krishna, however, Arjuna trembles with fear. He is overtaken by grief, and any friendship he once felt for Krishna leaves him. After he begged Krishna to return to his more human-like form, and Krishna complied, Arjuna again felt his mood of intimate relationship with Krishna and was able to resume his relationship. In this episode too, after showing his universal form, Krishna manifested his mighty Narayan features as a seek to his original form. Even this, however, did not satisfy Arjuna. Only when Krishna finally returned to his primeval two-armed, threefold bending form, Krishna as Shyamasundar, did Arjuna feel pacified enough to again relish his relationship with him. Observing these two incidents from Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, David L. Haberman, the author and professor of religion at Williams College, writes, what makes emotional relationships with the Godhead possible is the concealment of the awesome form by the gentle human form. This is the distinctive characteristic of the relationships between Krishna and the highest of the exemplary mortals. This is the distinctive characteristic of the relationships between Krishna and the highest of the exemplary mortals, the inhabitants of Vraja. Krishna appears to them in a sweet, lovely, and infinitely approachable human form called the Madhurya Roop, the form most conducive to attraction and love. This quality of Krishna leads to a closeness devoid of any hesitation. Haberman then would concur